Almighty God, who, in thy infinite wisdom and providential goodness, has appointed the offices of rulers and councils for the welfare of society and the just government of man, we beseech thee to behold with thy abundant favor us thy servants, whom thou hast been pleased to call to the performance of such important trusts in the Commonwealth of Dominica. Let thy blessing descend upon us here in this Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in thy presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote thy honor and glory, and to advance the good of those whose interests thou hast committed to our charge, all which we ask in the name and for the sake of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Good morning to all. House resumes and debate continues, but I would like to just make a few points of announcement. Yesterday we went through an episode and we had a lot of misinformation out there on the media and also on Facebook. But I just wanted to just clarify some matters. First of all, yesterday there was a motion before the House. It was put but relied on Standing Order 31, Roman numeral 9, Standing Order 35-1, and Standing Order 36. This motion was put, and I ask those in favor. I heard many people say aye. I heard no one said no. However, after the motion was put, a member on the opposition side asked for a division. And when the division was counted, you had members of the opposition saying no. But remember, I asked, those in favor? I heard ayes. Those against? I heard no no's. So, it is clear from yesterday that the opposition members are really blowing hot and cold. They are not clear as to what they want to do or where they stand on matters. Because you cannot, on one hand, when I ask those in favor, you are not saying anything. You'd either abstain, said nothing, but when it's time for division, that you ask for a division, so that means you participated in the process. And after you participated in the process, that is the opposition members, you are then now protesting against what you have participated in. Something is clearly wrong. Also, on the media, there are talks and discussion in regard to the Prime Minister and whether the Prime Minister is always attending House matters or whether he's not. I just want to point out something clear to the public and all members of this Honorable House. The Prime Minister, in his capacity as a member of Cabinet and the Leader of Parliament, has something we call the doctrine of necessity and also the doctrine of collective responsibility. The Prime Minister does not have to be in Parliament. When he's absent, any member that is a minister of government can take up that responsibility because of the doctrine of collective responsibility. Now, there is not a similar doctrine in regards to the opposition leader. So the opposition leader, to carry out his responsibility, cannot rely on the doctrine of collective responsibility. And I would say further that the Prime Minister office and the opposition leader office, they are not on par in the Westminster system. And that is why members keep making errors in regards to their parliamentary strategy in debate. And I'll just point out one. In the case of the Prime Minister, who holds the same position as Minister of Finance, he opens the debate, he closes the debate. In terms of ministers, when a minister comes and he put a debate matter, he opens the debate and he closes the debate. So the minister and or the Prime Minister or Minister of Finance always have that advantage. And it is not because of the person who holds the position. That is the type of system that we have. So finally, I would like all members of this Honorable House to be reminded that the matter before the House was not a matter dealing with whether or not members of either side would be allowed to speak. The matter was, how much time do we give? And not just to the Honorable House, but now to the public. And the public have a right to be able to analyze. Because members of the House, we are here to represent the people. So the question is to the public, is it right? And is it parliamentary for the leader of opposition to show complete disrespect to the House by not being present, even if he attended the earlier session of the morning, of not being present to listen? I'm talking about present in the chamber, to listen and participate in the most sacred part of parliamentary proceedings, which is the budget presentation. So, to avoid any doubt, the leader of opposition and all the other members of the opposition side and the government side who did not talk at the time were allowed to talk and had that opportunity. The question was whether the leader of opposition would be given 2.5 hours, or as per the motion placed before the House, which was voted on and passed, that he's given, just like all other members, 30 minutes. And it is because, finally, it was because, and that is to the public, so we can clarify, that the leader of opposition does not have a right to get equal time as the prime minister. What he has is a privilege extended through courtesy. But can you extend courtesies when a member is completely disrespecting this honorable house? This is the question. I'll say last finally. Finally, in the rules of the house, the speaker has the final say. But in this particular matter, it was put to the entire house. This was not a piece of legislation that had negative impact on the community and society. The fundamental issue there was about respect to the house. And the house has an obligation and a responsibility to ensure that all members respect the house. Moving forward, honorable members of this house, we have a lot of work to do, especially in regards to the Standing Orders Committee, for us to strengthen the rules as it pertains to the house. We really have a lot of work to do. Members are being paid to participate and to attend meetings of parliament. The question is, should a member register, present, and leave? As the Speaker of this Honorable House, I will not tolerate any member on any side disrespecting the House. I've sent us a clear signal and message to all members that this will not be tolerated, and will take all action against members, including suspension from the House and taking members to the Privileges Committee. And the public also need to know that the House have authority also through the Privileges Committee after suspension of a member to decide not to pay the member for those breaches. So Parliament is not a simple thing. This is a serious, serious institution. And from the time I came to this Honorable House as the Speaker, because I served on both sides in regards to the politics, I understood both sides. So I've tried everything to be balanced. And so far, I have slanted to the opposition members in terms of tolerance and leeway. But as I said before, it doesn't matter what you do. If people are hell-bent on causing disruption, they will try it. But from today, this ends. So, as I said earlier, House resumes and debate continues. Yes, Honorable Prime Minister.
Honorable Speaker, if you allow me just to give a short in light of the points that you raised. This was my 18th budget address, and I've been present for all 18 budget addresses, and I have stood on my feet in all of the cases for more than 2 hours. delivering those 18 speeches individually. Now, the Rule 41.6 gives every member 30 minutes to speak on any question. Ministers are not entitled to 1 hour to speak. This is a courtesy and a privilege extended to ministers by a suspension of Rule 41.6 to give ministers 1 hour. And the reason why this has been settled practice, because it is expected that the minister would have more to say as he's reporting and she's reporting on her ministerial or his ministerial portfolio. And in most cases, ministers are also members, elected members of parliament. So they have a constituency. And they would also have to represent the interests of the constituents. And then other members are given half an hour. And so the suspension of the rule allows only during the budget debate, that we provide a privilege of suspending the Rule 41.6. And the only reason why the Parliament does so is because Parliament recognizes that the budget debate is the most important debate of any Parliament, including the Parliament or the House of Assembly of Dominica. Now, I recall the one year that Mr. Earl Williams, was the leader of the opposition. We had suspended the debate, the commencement of the debate, to a day or two after, and Mr. Williams came late on that morning, and he did not have his speech because it was being emailed to him that morning, and the Parliament had started. The Speaker was in her seat. And Earl came to the House and said, his speech is delayed, he's waiting for it. And that day, I believe Frederick Barron brought a whole basket of fruits and vegetables as part of his theatrical presentation there. And I stood and I asked the House to be suspended for 30 minutes to allow, one, for Mr. Williams to receive his speech by email, and secondly, to allow the House to facilitate the printing of his speech. And we suspended for 40 minutes, and we allow Mr. Williams to speak. That courtesy was extended to him by the House because Mr. Williams was in his seat when the budget speech was being delivered. When the rules does not speak to something specifically, we in this parliamentary democracy refer to Erskine May. And Erskine May speaks about settled practice. If a member is not there to speak at his appointed time, so if a minister shows up after the budget debate has been concluded, where the Minister of Finance concludes the debate, he can't say, well, I want my hour. He wasn't there to speak. And therefore, we cannot delay the House or delay the conclusion of the debate until that minister shows up. And so, and nothing in the rules, because this is the constitution of the House, the standing orders. Nothing in the rules says that you can wait whenever you want. So, are we saying that if the leader has not showed up after the debate has been concluded, we have to reopen the debate to allow him to present? No. No. And I always tell people, this is not about me. I don't know why to show respect to Roosevelt's character. That I'm the least of the apostles. This is the House. This is the House. And if you are not there, you are the first leader of your position in our political history both pre and post-independence, to miss a budget debate, a budget presentation. And you can miss something, but there must be a justification to missing it. You were not sick, you were not dealing with a family emergency, the speaker didn't know you were out. And so it was never, in terms of settled practice, it was never expected that you could respond to the debate, to the budget proposals from the Minister of Finance at any time. Because the whole idea of allowing you to speak immediately after the Minister of Finance, whether it's the same day or the day after or the following week, is to allow the Parliament to have two sets of proposals on the table to debate. And so, when you are not there to take advantage of your privilege, you cannot say that you are not allowed to speak. No, you now revert to the 30 minutes. Automatically. And I know, Mr. Speaker, that the leader of opposition and his team knows that he forfeited his time. Because that was discussed among them before they came to the Parliament. So it is not that the leader of opposition were not allowed to speak. It is simply rule and practice, settled practice in the House, that if you're not there to take advantage of your opportunity, then it is forfeited. It's a simple logic. Simple logic. If I am not there as the Minister of Finance to wind the debate, any minister can stand and conclude the debate on the budget. Because you don't know, I could be Batman and go in Vegas and stay and don't come to the House. But the Parliament was never structured that any one person can hold the Parliament to hostage. So the Parliament was within its rights to impose that which it imposed. I was not there during the discussion because I was in a meeting with the Minister for Health and senior public officials at the time, dealing with a particular challenge which we have of some cases that were discovered, and we put in the government's response in place to ensure that we can contain the spread of the virus. But my understanding is that a motion was moved, the ayes had it, and a senator on the opposition side asked for a division. The mere fact that you ask for division is that you accept the process. You've accepted the process. And therefore you cannot now say, having come to the conclusion of the process, says that it is foul. You cannot go into a restaurant, order a meal, eat the man meal, tell the server to tell the chef there's a good meal, and then when you come to pay, you say you don't pay because your belly is not full enough. So, you know, this, and any logical person anybody who considers himself to be logical and sensible, who would support this nonsense, we were sending a very bad signal to our children and to the nation about how serious we should treat our responsibilities and all that. And so, if the leader of the opposition will not respond to the budget debate, then the people will respond. And the people are responding to the government's budgetary proposal. And that's what it is. So there is a dereliction of duty, and that's what the Parliament and the people of the should consider to preoccupy themselves with, a dereliction of duty. That the leader of us must understand that this is not Q95 talk show, this is Parliament, the highest court of the land, and the most important time of the parliamentary period, the budget debate. But the reality is, he has nothing to offer. And they're saying out there in the streets, Mr. Speaker, and I want to point out this thing, that the police officers threaten them. It is the member of Salisbury who threatened the police. And who said to the police, the police officers, that he knows where they live in. And he will deal with them. And they left there and they went on the Connecticut program, and he specifically mentioned Officer John Lewis, who is the Sergeant of Arms. And this is something I believe that the Parliament and the people of Dominica need to condemn. That when a member of Parliament can threaten the Sergeant of Arms and the police officers, then these are the kinds of leaders we want in our country. These are the people who we want to replace the Dominica Labour Party and the members here. That's the caliber of people. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to speak on this matter, but you raised it this morning upon a clarification, and I felt that it would be important for me to speak to this issue. But, so there's no right. It is not that he had a right and the right was taken away from him. It's a privilege. And you must be present to take advantage or to benefit from that privilege. Simply put, Mr. Speaker, if you have an activity and it says the early bird catches the worm, the event starts at 8 o'clock. And you come after the event is over, there are no worms to be caught. You can't catch any worms. So this is really a red herring. This is an attempt to distract the nation from the measures contained in this budget to transform this country and that are benefiting every single sector of the economy and every single group of this economy. But they will not succeed with that attempt to distract this House on this matter. We here, we have the business to do, and people who are being paid to do their work are abandoning their responsibility. And shame on them. Shame on them, Mr. Speaker. That is what the people of Dominica should be calling them. Shame on them for this. So going and cry out there and so on is not going to gain them any sympathy except among themselves. But we have to condemn that behavior and so on. And on the question of, the leader of the opposition did not stay to listen to the Minister of Finance present his budget address because, when I speak in, he is not there and so on. The records will show differently. The records will show that I've always been in the House. The records will also show that I may not have spent all of the time during his presentation. But the records will show that I spent the substantive part of the time when he's presenting. And the records will also show, Mr. Speaker, that from time to time I go out of there even when my colleague ministers are speaking because I have other things to do as well. So very soon I have to go out there to follow up on these cases because there may be measures that I have to guide the government on and the Ministry of Health on from a broader policy standpoint. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to end on this point. Before I sit, if you allow me, Mr. Speaker, 1 minute, 2 minutes, to congratulate Thea Lafont, our Olympic athlete. She earned herself a spot, having qualified for the finals of the triple jump. She did a record of 14.6 meters, which is a new national record. The qualifying mark was 14.4 meters, and she is at 14.6. I want to say to her that we are rooting for her. The entire nation will be following on Sunday, giving her support, and to hoping and ensuring that she is on the podium to receive a medal.
Yes.
And I will say to her that if she gets a medal, that would be fantastic. If she doesn't get a medal, that is also fantastic. And in the next few days, the cabinet will announce a special recognition to be bestowed upon our athlete, our Olympic athlete, Tia Laffer. Whether she wins a medal or not, as far as we are concerned in Dominica and in this government, she won the triple jump. She has won the triple jump. And we are fully with her, and she'll be recognized in a special and delightful manner by this Dominica Labour Party administration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Debate continues.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to give my full support to this 2021-2022 budget as presented by the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister for Finance. But first, it is inevitable that I must declare that God has a plan for our beloved Dominica. And Jeremiah chapter 29, verses 11 to 13 explains that perfectly. The prophet wrote, "For I know," and I quote, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and the future. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart." End of quote. When we trust in this plan and seek God with all our hearts, good things will happen. Mr. Speaker, you will remember that just a few weeks ago, we decided to call our nation to 3 days of fasting and praying. God has indeed listened. God has certainly used this government and our visionary leader to fulfill his purpose for this country. Even during this COVID-19 pandemic, God has protected us as a nation. He has protected us through economic, social, and health challenges, and we must be grateful to him. Mr. Speaker, as the minister responsible for caring for the most vulnerable people in our society, I must declare that as a government, we were able to meet the needs of all our beneficiaries, as well as extend assistance to additional individuals affected by the pandemic. I must accentuate that the COVID-19 pandemic did not prevent this government from ensuring that all social protection programs continued, and in some cases, they were even expanded to meet the needs of the most vulnerable amongst us. Mr. Speaker, please permit me to extend my gratitude to the Permanent Secretary of my ministry, Mrs. Sylvanie Burton, and the other staff members. I would like to say a resounding thank you to them for their dedication and commitment throughout the last financial year. I also commend them for helping protect the people we serve by getting vaccinated against COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, every staff member of the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security, and Dominicans with Disability are vaccinated, fully vaccinated. I would also like to thank all the heads of department of the divisions within the ministry and their staff for their diligence in serving our clients. I speak of the Youth Division, Development Division, the Social Welfare Division, the Bureau of Gender Affairs, chances, and yes, we care. I encourage all of them, please get vaccinated. I thank the board members and staff of the Dominica Infirmary, the Dominica Council on Aging, the Grotto Home for the Homeless, the Dominica Association of Persons with Disabilities, the Workshop for the Blind, the Alpha Center, the Achievement Learning Center, the Dominica Youth Business Trust, CALLS in Portsmouth, and all the other institutions which have collaborated with the ministry over the last year. I am also especially grateful for our consultants, our partners, and agencies who have assisted in the realization of projects and policies within the ministry. I am now humbled to highlight the performance of each of the divisions that fall under my ministry. Mr. Speaker, the Social Welfare Division, in its role as a family services entity, continues to discharge its responsibilities to families and institutions and fulfill its mandate through its many varied programs. In administering these programs, there were many successes. The Public Assistance Program has continued to provide economic security to those in need. At present, there are 1,950 individuals enrolled in this program. It continues to meet its objectives. It serves to make certain critical adjustments in the lives of individuals, particularly in shaping their livelihoods for the better. Continuous review is done to ensure that individuals and families whose economic circumstances are improved are removed from the program. Beneficiaries are also given guidance to assist them in improving their quality of life. Mr. Speaker, the probation service is also another responsibility of the Social Welfare Division. This service focuses on the rehabilitation of children and young adults who come in conflict with the law. In this year's budget, government has approved over $250,000 to assist with our diversion program. The ministry will collaborate with the Social Centers program from offending to achieving FOTA. This program ensures that our juveniles are trained and receive the necessary counseling to become productive members and economic earners to better assist their families. Invariably, this spills over into the community. Mr. Speaker, childcare services aims to provide a safe environment for children whose families cannot adequately care for them. Childcare services encompass foster care, adoption, child abuse prevention, and therapeutic services to children with behavioral problems. The department utilizes foster care as one of its main program areas. Such a program is aimed at having children reside with substitute families with the objective of providing a better quality of life for those who have been abandoned, orphaned, rejected, or suffer any form of abuse. I thank the foster families for accepting the children into their homes. We will continue to support these children and ensure that their every need is met. Mr. Speaker, care of our older person is of paramount importance to this Labour Party government. The Welfare Division works in facilitating the entry of elderly citizens requiring care in government-sponsored residential care institutions and supervision of elderly homes. Care of the elderly is the fulfillment of their special needs and requirements that are unique to senior citizens. This encompasses services such as assisted living, adult daycare, home-based care, and institutional care. The officers of the Welfare Division make monthly visits to monitor and evaluate the level of care being received by residents. This is geared at ensuring that optimal care is provided to our senior citizens in residential care. Mr. Speaker, a total of 9 institutions are providing institutional care to our seniors, and government gives an annual subvention of a total $1,051,536 to these institutions. In addition to the above-mentioned program areas, the Social Welfare Division also provides migrant services, counseling services, and oversees interagency collaboration. Mr. Speaker, during this financial year, we will look forward to the restructuring of the Social Welfare Division to better respond to present-day realities. These include engagement of specialist officers, including additional counselors, a better coordinated approach with social partners in dealing with child abuse, establishment of a comprehensive database system, establishment of policies and standards in specific program areas, for example, child care and probation. Mr. Speaker, it is said that caring for our seniors is perhaps the greatest responsibility we have. Those who walked before us have given so much and make possible the life that we now enjoy. The Yes We Care program, which was implemented 12 years ago, is a social service which is dear to the heart of our Prime Minister and continues to be extremely important to this administration. Yes We Care continues to provide quality home care to 160 persons, thus improving their quality of life. Clients continue to be assisted through the provision of basic personal care such as bathing, dressing, grooming, as well as performing housekeeping duties. We also do errands and home health aides visit these clients. The program has manifested itself to a happier and healthier client with clean homes, and we have also incorporated home renovations and completion. Clients are also provided with monthly groceries. Generally, the program addresses the client's physical and mental needs, which results in our seniors living a much more fulfilling and longer life. Caregivers undergo training regularly in order to provide optimal care to our clients. In this financial year, the caregivers under the NEP program and the clients will be integrated into the Yes We Care program with the objective of standardizing the level of care to our elderly. Mr. Speaker, we continue to take care of the special gems of this nation, our centenarians. Though we have lost some in the past few months, we still have over 20 surviving centenarians here on island. We continue to provide them with a monthly allowance of $500 and, thanks to our partners, free monthly cooking gas, water, and electricity. Mr. Speaker, additionally, the 70-plus non-contributory pension is still effectively accomplishing its objective by giving our citizens a sense of dignity. They boast of being able to use the funds to meet basic needs. Mr. Speaker, as much as we take care of our senior citizens, we also ensure that our young people can be given every opportunity to succeed. Please allow me to pause at this moment to join my voice with that of the Prime Minister in congratulating Ms. Fia Lafon as the Minister of Youth. We expect great things for her, and I encourage Dominicans to please stay at the television set on Sunday so we can see her make us all very, very proud. Mr. Speaker, the Youth Development Division in the first half of the 2020-2021 fiscal year saw the gradual resumption of major programs. Staff training continued during the last fiscal year in basic and advanced counseling. The youth skills training programs during the year were conducted in collaboration with the Youth Skills for Economic Growth Project in collaboration with Skills for Youth Employment in the Caribbean, funded by UK Aid through the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office. 179 young persons, 69 males and 110 females, graduated from traded modules such as computer literacy, auto body repairs, wood art, hospital arts, building maintenance, and electrical wiring. Job internships were secured for 50 of these trainees during this period. Several trainees have reported being gainfully employed as a result of the skills they acquired. Mr. Speaker, during the last fiscal year, $500,000 was approved under the Public Sector Investment Program for renovation of youth centers. Renovation works were completed on the Grand Bay Youth Enterprise Center and the Grand Bay Youth Center. Renovation works are nearing completion on the Cassibus Youth Enterprise Center, and rehabilitation of the Roseau Youth Center is also ongoing. Retrofitting of the Layo Emergency Shelter and Resource Center was also done to accommodate skills training in the Western District and office space for the youth officer and assistant youth officer for that district. The Maria Holder Memorial Trust agreed to partner with the government of Dominica for renovation of a section of the Marigot Youth Center for an amount of US $750,000. Works will commence in August 2021 on that facility. Government has also approved over $300,000 to meet the cost of VAT associated with that project. During this fiscal year, we expect to see completion of works on the Roseau Youth Center, further works on the Marigot Youth Center, and commencement of works on the rehabilitation of the Delices Youth Center. This Labour Party government takes the development of the youth of this country very seriously, and I must applaud the Honorable Prime Minister and the Cabinet of Ministers for the approval of funding to upgrade the Youth Skills Training Program at the Youth Development Division. We are indeed working in the interest of our young people. We are also assisting with skills training for young inmates at the Dominica State Prison. This financial year, we intend to provide training in computer literacy, auto body works, stonewall construction, sewing, woodwork, hospitality arts, building maintenance, among others. We will also provide training at the Dominica State Prison in small engine repair and sewing. Mr. Speaker, another entity under the Youth Development Division is the 4-H Club. This program continues to transform lives of the young people in schools. For the period of the fiscal year, the 4-H coordinator continued collaborative work with agriculture in collaboration with Junior Achievement to implement the GROW project with 4-H clubs. We also hosted the National 4-H Local Leaders Association 4-H Week. A total of 44 4-H clubs participated in activities such as cake decorating, public speaking, 4-H corner competition, and fruit and agriculture day. Mr. Speaker, no segment in the society can match the power, idealism, enthusiasm, and courage of our young people. As a result, the Dominica Youth Business Trust, DYBT, has been significant in helping youth transform their life through entrepreneurship. Let me reiterate the purpose of the DYBT, which is to empower Dominican youth to realize their entrepreneurial potential by facilitating access to financial, technical, and social assistance geared towards the development of viable businesses, thereby contributing to the growth and development of our local economy. Throughout the last quarter, the position of Social Enterprise Administrator under the European Union Social Enterprise Incubator Project was filled. Under this project, the sum of $148,000 will be disbursed for the first year of the project. A total of 10 social enterprises targeting the youth are expected to be impacted by the project for the first year. Last year, DYBT also received Cabinet's approval for the use of land at Charles Avenue in Goodwill to establish an enterprise incubator, the Hub. We heard Honorable Roll talk about the Hub yesterday. This Hub will be built with funding from the IOM Development Fund. Construction of the first phase is expected to begin very soon. DYBT, in collaboration with IOM, also delivered 2 grants for virtual participation in the OECS Sustainable Development Movement Summit 2020 under the theme Create, Invest, Deliver, Scale. The summit was held in September 2020. The grantees were Julie Robin and Joel Noel. DYBT also secured funding of $139,850 from the Caribbean Development Bank for its agro-processing project. The project is being implemented by the OECS Commission. The first workshop of the OECS DYBT agro-processing project, Good Manufacturing Practice, was held via Zoom in April 2021. 33 persons participated. Mr. Speaker, my government is cognizant of the challenges faced by our young individuals when planning to build their own homes or purchase land. In last year's budget, the government set aside an amount of $1.5 million to support persons aged 40 or under whose annual income is less than $100,000 in the process of building their home or purchasing a house or land for the first time. This support was provided in the form of grant vouchers of a maximum of $10,000 per home for the purchase of building materials, payment of labor or construction costs, property transfer fees in relation to the purchase of a home or land, and insurance premium cost. Mr. Speaker, this program began on October 1st, 2020. An oversight committee to oversee the implementation was appointed by the Cabinet. I am happy and elated today to report that 124 young persons have been approved to date. Of these, 66 females and 58 males. This signifies that 83% of the program's target has been achieved thus far. I am especially happy for the 14 individuals from the Kalinago territory who also got approval. So far, we have disbursed over $1.2 million to approved beneficiaries. Mr. Speaker, over the last few weeks, we have received an increased number of applications. This program has certainly encouraged many young people to think about owning their homes. Furthermore, it has heightened the request for property and land transfer. This is why in this year's budget, $1 million is being provided for the extension of the housing grant. This, together with the extension of the reduced property transfer fees for another year, will surely empower our youth. An empowered youth is an economic asset. Mr. Speaker, gender affairs continues to be a priority for this government. The Bureau continues to fulfill its mission, which is to represent the interests of women and men. The Bureau ensures too that policies, plans and programs across government priority areas are in place to achieve improvement in the status of women and men. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the government of Dominica adequately put measures in place to successfully prevent community spread of the virus. Considering the expected negative socio-economic impact on vulnerable families, the ministry, via the Bureau, had to clearly craft its response to mitigate and respond to the impacts of that pandemic on our target population. In addition to the routine everyday activities like radio programs, basic client support, field outreach, research and data collection, the Bureau of Gender Affairs successfully executed the following gender-responsive projects and programs over the past year, most of which were to assist in responding to the socio-economic impact of the pandemic on our clientele. The ministry, via the Bureau, was able to craft a proposal under the Regional Engender Project to respond to gender-based violence. As the ministry has articulated repeatedly over the past year via various mediums, COVID-19 related impacts and lockdown measures would have likely increased the levels of domestic violence. The ministry was therefore proactive by increasing support services for domestic violence survivors under this program. Specific achievements were increased aware-raising activities for gender-based violence. 270 families received support for safe housing and care packages for vulnerable individuals and families. Provision of gender-based violence training for frontline service providers, including community workers and the police officers. The objective was to increase community response and police action for gender-based violence. 25 advocates were trained in psychosocial support to respond to survivors. In addition to domestic violence initiative, the Bureau of Gender Affairs also received funding via UN Women under the Engender Project to support women in various sectors. Despite setbacks posed by COVID-19 pandemic, the government of the Commonwealth of Dominica is making steady progress towards the goal of becoming the first climate resilient nation as clearly articulated in the government's policies, the NRDS and the CRRP. The National Gender Machinery has the mandate to integrate gender into government's plans and policies, and therefore the Bureau of Gender Affairs, with support from the Ministry of Planning, therefore conceptualized and implemented the enhancing capacities and consciousness of vulnerable communities, especially women and youth, to achieve climate resilience to the tune of $67,920. Key achievements of this project included 138 women and youth were trained, 83 extension service providers trained in key components of the CRRP. Successful public awareness campaign through live Facebook discussion, road shows, and radio dialogues on women, young men, and young women and their contributions to climate resilience. A CRRP sculpture will soon be erected in Roseau as a visual representation of government's goal to become a climate resilient nation by 2030. Mr. Speaker, the Bureau of Gender Affairs will continue to fulfill its mandate and in some cases go beyond. The Bureau will continue to develop projects around priority areas including social protection, wealth creation, poverty reduction, and gender equality and equity. One of the key projects confirmed thus far is a 18,000 project entitled Strengthening Gender Mainstreaming Capacity for a Climate Resilient Dominica. This project is funded by UNDP and is aimed at strengthening the CRRP executors' capacity to mainstream gender into CRRP targets pursued by the government of Dominica to be achieved by 2030. As the Minister responsible for gender affairs, I will continue to ensure that the national gender machinery is adequately resourced to meet the gender-specific needs of the populations over government's priority sectors.
30 minutes left.
Over the past year, the Project Steering Committee for the Enabling Gender-Responsive Disaster Recovery, Climate and Environment Resilience in the Caribbean, the Engender Project, was established. The Engender Project is a US $15 million project being implemented by UNDP across 9 Caribbean countries. Significant work has already been completed under this project, including the completion of research and action documents which will guide the upcoming activities. Over the next year, several gender-responsive climate resilient projects will be implemented. We were able to secure $20,000 for this financial year to launch a pilot safe housing program for survivors of domestic violence in extreme situations. This is directly in line with the NRDS strategy to reduce the multidimensional effects of poverty in housing, education and care, and foster long-term self-reliance. The NRDS proposes further development to service delivery to victims of gender-based violence. This pilot program will assist in ensuring that survivors in extreme situations can move on to become fully functioning persons in their communities. Over the next budget cycle, the Bureau of Gender Affairs will prioritize the following. We will continue to resource mobilization efforts to secure support for vulnerable populations, including men and women. We will continue to engage and involve our men in the Bureau's programming. We will continue to strengthen support services for survivors of the gender-based violence. We will continue advocacy and public outreach on key gender issues. We will prioritize our international reports for international human rights framework. Mr. Speaker, the ministry continues to partner. During the pandemic, we have partnered with the United Nations World Food Program in the implementing of a cash transfer program for vulnerable people and individuals directly affected by COVID-19 in Dominica. We assisted more than 1,500 individuals and families under the Public Assistance Program with an additional assistance of another 1,500 individuals who are non-PAP but currently are very vulnerable due to the COVID-19 pandemic. As well, we were able to employ 30 young persons to assist in conducting the assessments and registration island-wide. Mr. Speaker, we have completed 3 rounds of payments, and 2 further rounds will be done in August and September of this year. The total amount expended under this cash transfer program will be $5,472,841. This is cash in the pockets of the most vulnerable amongst us. Mr. Speaker, during this financial year, we will continue to work with the World Food Program. We have set out a draft plan of action on some of the areas we intend to continue working on to improve the provision of social protection to the most vulnerable in our society. This action plan focuses on assisting with government thrust in building a climate-resilient Dominica. Mr. Speaker, the government of Dominica and 4 other OECS member states have for the past 4 years been engaged in the Juvenile Justice Reform Project, JJRP. This is administered by the OECS Commission and USAID and aims to strengthen existing juvenile justice systems by way of reform measures applied both nationally and sub-regionally. This approach to the reform of our juvenile justice system is predicated on pillars of legal reform, capacity building in the administration of the system, modernization of various structures, and improving civil society linkages in the delivery of services to our children and youth. This project is into its final stage and was expected to terminate at the end of June 2021. However, through dialogue between the OECS Commission and USAID, a decision has been taken to further extend the project for another year. USAID, which is providing funding for the project, must be commended for subsidizing the project over the years. The JJRP, in its last project cycle, which placed emphasis on the diversion of children from the criminal justice system and rehabilitation of those who have found themselves before a court of law. Emphasis is also placed on its reintegration, on the reintegration into society in the event that our children have been given court orders for residential care and also if a custodial sentence is imposed. The JJRP, through direct funding and technical support, has been able to assist Dominica in a number of areas, namely, technical support in the drafting of the Harmonized Family Model Bills, retrofitting of the building housing the children of the Operation Youth Quick, training of students in anger management, training of students in mediation techniques, training of our probation officers in the use of particular tools for the preparation of court reports, capacity building of practitioners, development of the national strategy on diversion, rehabilitation, and reintegration of our juveniles, woodcraft skills development training at our prisons. In one way or another, these all impact the lives of citizens. However, I wish to highlight the following areas. Number 1, the OECS draft family model bills. Reference in the first place is made to legal reform. Technical assistance in collaboration with the Office of the Attorney General was provided in drafting harmonized family model bills. The following bills are before government: the Children Care and Adoption Bill, the Child Justice Bill, the Status of Children Bill, the Maintenance Bill, and the Domestic Violence Bill. These bills are all related to family, and when enacted, will bring about major reform in family law. This will be advantageous to our courts, as it will have at its disposal many more orders with which it could be dispensed. These new laws, when enacted, will have their impact on our children, given that greater protection will be given to them. Of noteworthy is the Maintenance Bill, which speaks to a range of matters which the court could consider before making an order for maintenance. The matter of individuals reneging on their responsibility to maintain a child when so ordered by the court is addressed under what would be a revised Maintenance Act, whereby a range of orders would be available to the court. Certain successes in regard to the OECS model bills can be highlighted. There has been public sensitization and training, and it's still ongoing. This is being done with magistrates, police officers, teachers, probation officers, among others. policy matters for enforcement of the bills have been identified and been addressed. Mr. Speaker, under the JJRP program, we also did retrofitting of the Operation Youth Creek building. Operation Youth Creek has and is still making an invaluable contribution to this nation's children. Government provides an annual subvention to the institution in support of the work being undertaken for our children. The assistance provided under this project has brought about the following accomplishments. There were renovation of the building in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria with supply of furniture and appliances. Funding in the sum of $159,286 for retrofitting purposes was recently completed. Much more building space is now available to our children. A commitment was also made to provide the children with laptops. Mr. Speaker, the aggression replacement therapy and peer mediation. These two program areas have had a direct impact on our children. The emphasis has been to assist children in reducing certain negative behavioral characteristics. Funding was provided to conduct training for selected students at 4 secondary schools in anger management. This was undertaken by facilitators from the Ministry of Education. A cohort of 50 students have been trained, and there is evidence of improvement in managing anger. Trained facilitators are also in place to continue with this program. On peer mediation, the JJRP assisted with funding for the training of students geared at empowering their students with requisite skills to serve as mediators in resolving conflicts among peers. Again, officials of the Ministry of Education conducted the training with 60 students from 4 secondary schools. It is interesting to note that the peer mediation model adopted by Dominica was highly commended by the JJRP as it is the first in the region. Mr. Speaker, capacity building of our practitioners. This project has placed strong emphasis on training to equip practitioners with the necessary skill set and competencies to perform their duties. Over time, approximately 100 professionals have been trained. These include magistrates, police officers, probation officers, and child care workers. Training covered selected areas such as child care and protection, forensic interviewing, working with adolescents, pre-charge and post-charge diversion, and understanding the various clauses of the family model bills. Mr. Speaker, we continue to emphasize that Chances is more than a home, it's a family. Chances is a government-owned residential home providing residential care and emergency accommodation for our children and young people in need of care and protection. We celebrated our 10th anniversary on the 13th of April 2021. There is a current in-house total of 23 residents. To date, 219 children, young persons have taken up residence at Chances. When opportunities arise for the adoption of residents, the same is facilitated through the Social Welfare Division. Chances continues to ensure that residents are given the best opportunities to bright futures and stability. It is operational round the clock, offers a number of services to include children and young persons assessments and counseling. It aims to provide a caring and nurturing and loving environment in order that our children maximize their full potential. Each year, new avenues are sought to enhance the life of its residents and to make a more meaningful contribution to our nation's vulnerable youth. Chances prides itself with the adoption of the holistic approach of caring for its residents, considering that each child is unique and that each child has had a different experience and needs an individual approach and treatment plan. We ensure that programs employed are designed to benefit both residents and staff to further enhance their development. New training opportunities will be available for staff in the new financial year in the following areas: dealing with the adolescent, childcare and nutrition, time management, communication, effective caregiving, effects of abuse on child. Residents will also be trained in counseling sessions, education and academic program to assist children in their schoolwork, health program where children are taken to preliminary health checks and are also given dental and health assessments. In-house activities to teach the children responsibilities. During the summer, we have outdoor activities, post-placement visits for up to 6 months after placement to ensure that placements are functional and the children are well cared for. Residents also engage in the creation and upkeep of a backyard garden, which has been very productive. We continue to receive donations from various individuals in different ways, and we are very grateful for the consideration given to our less fortunate. We appreciate whatever contributions are made towards the best interest and well-being of the residents at Chances. Mr. Speaker, I must say the welfare of our Dominicans with disabilities is of paramount importance to this Labour Party government. Government, through the Basic Needs Trust Fund program, has provided an amount of $929,398.49 for the construction of the ground and first floor extension to the existing DAPD structure. This project is near completion. This year's budget provides for an increase of $100 of the minimum disability allowance at the Dominica Social Security. Also, as we enhance our city, special attention will be given to making it accessible to persons with physical and sensory disabilities. Mr. Speaker, in October 2012, the government of Dominica became a states party to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. In this fiscal year, government will appoint a National Commission on the Rights of Persons with Disability. Its composition will include representatives from the disability community, the private sector, the public sector, and NGOs. This commission will provide guidance and advice on policies, programs, activities, and other matters related to the needs, opportunities, aspirations, and potential of our persons with disabilities in keeping with the provisions of the Convention. A focal point will be established within the ministry to assist with the coordination of activities. It is my ministry's intent to ensure enjoyment of all human rights by all Dominicans with disabilities. I am aptly reminded, Mr. Speaker, that the tree which falls in the forest is vital to its ecosystem. Even the broken among us are vital to our holistic thriving. Mr. Speaker, as member of Parliament for the St. Joseph constituency, it is with the utmost humility that I stand here in this honorable house to represent my people. The people of Bells, Meru, Layu, and St. Joseph have continued to show their love and support. For this, I am eternally grateful. As we build dynamic Dominica, no one can be left behind. It is a shared vision of the members of this Labour Party administration that we should empower every citizen from every community around our nature isle, whether through education, healthcare, housing, small business support, and more. Over the past year, constituents of the St. Joseph constituency have benefited from all safety net programs offered by this administration. This includes, but not limited to, school uniforms and textbooks for our students, Students also benefited from laptops. We also benefited from school transfer grants, school transportation, free tuition and transportation allowance to attend the Dominica State College, the Yes We Care program, the NEP, public assistance, cash transfer grants, compassionate allowances. Mr. Speaker, I thank the Prime Minister and my colleagues for their support in administering all of these to my constituents. Mr. Speaker, farming remains the main source of income throughout all the communities of the St. Joseph constituency. All our farmers are encouraged to use best practices. I must commend the Bells Farmers Cooperative for all the work they have done to enhance their produce. I encourage all Dominicans to look out for Bells Dashing in our supermarkets. Also, our Dashing Punch is to die for. Mr. Speaker, I encourage you to look for Dashing Punch. Trust me, you won't regret it. This year, the Bells Farmers Cooperative also benefited under the Engender program and were also beneficiaries of several government-initiated training programs. Many of our farmers across the constituency qualified for the Ministry of Agriculture's Emergency Livelihood Project, and some have already received inputs and cash grants, while others await benefits later this year. Our fisher folks will also benefit under this program with fishing boats. Some have already received engines. We are currently carrying out assessments of all the feeder roads within the constituency with the view of significantly improving farm access. This is certainly good news for all our farmers. Mr. Speaker, in this last year, we saw the commissioning of the first ever regional disaster shelter and resource center in Layo. This facility has not only given a sense of reassurance to residents in the area that there is a safe shelter in the event of a disaster, but it has become a place of training for so many young people. The top floor has been retrofitted to facilitate youth skills training program through the Youth Development Division. In addition to computer literacy, other modules will be introduced this year to include electricity and stonewall construction. The first ever community outreach entrepreneurship development training was held at the Resource Center from July 6 to 29. This was facilitated by the Dominica Youth Business Trust in partnership with Sky and UK Aid. Young entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs from the Western District were targeted as beneficiaries of this training. Over 40 young persons completed the training successfully, many of them from St. Joseph and Layo. Participants were trained in key areas such as steps to setting up a small business, costing and pricing, business branding, record keeping, and marketing. This training will be duplicated in the Northeastern District. Mr. Speaker, sports is very important to the people of St. Joseph. Recently, we saw the formation of our St. Joseph Football Club and our St. Joseph Sports Committee. This has certainly increased interest in sports by many of our young men. This is why the lighting of the playing field was welcomed by all constituents, and it has given the football team the opportunity to extend their time for practice. I wish to say thank you to the Dominica Lottery Commission for the funding of this important project. Mr. Speaker, we were also able to improve access to the basketball court, and improvement works on the court will continue in this fiscal year. Mr. Speaker, housing remains a huge priority for the people of Bells, Miro, Layo, and St. Joseph, and even Layo Park and Sultan. In a few weeks, Housing repairs will begin in each of these communities. We will also continue building houses throughout the constituency. The intention is to build resilient housing as we seek to improve our housing stock. Mr. Speaker, my constituency boasts of the Mirror Beach and the Spani Falls. Both tourist sites have become very popular in recent times. The model for community tourism is clearly the Mirror Beach. Enhancement of both sites have been undertaken by the Ministry of Tourism. In this fiscal year, work will continue on the Mirror Beach with the addition of tiki huts and renovation of the tourism facility. The tourism facilities in Layu are also being renovated. Mr. Speaker, this year we will see the implementation of several major projects in the St. Joseph constituency. Work has already begun on the Hillsborough East Bridge and will cost approximately $9 million.
5 more minutes. How many?
10 more minutes.
Secondly, Mr. Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the Honorable Minister King be given an additional 10 minutes. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Honorable Minister, you are given an additional 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, like I was saying, work has already commenced on the Hillsborough East Bridge. This bridge, which was destroyed by Hurricane Maria, has been done for some time. And as you know, it facilitates transit from north to south and south to north of the island. This project will cost approximately $9 million and will be expected to be completed in 6 months. It is expected to create local employment. And to complement this, in just a few weeks, residents will see the commencement of works on the construction of the Layu Valley Road. That is from the Hillsborough Bridge to the York Valley Bridge. Note that I said construction. There will be a complete realignment from the original road to ensure that the road passes the furthest from the river as possible. Several retaining walls will be erected where necessary. The intention is to create resilience of the road. Consultations have been ongoing with landowners, and government will acquire land to facilitate the best alignment possible for this road. This road, when completed, will greatly benefit farmers and residents of the Layu Valley area, and it will also increase the productivity of our farmers in this area. This road, Mr. Speaker, will also facilitate the transit of people to our new international airport. In so doing, it will also enhance the tourism product of the area. Last night, Honorable Paul talked about Shoulder Pool. In Layu, we have Glow Show. Mr. Speaker, it doesn't need any translation. That's the name of the area, Glow Show. It is a warm part of the Layu River. Mr. Speaker, we'll also see rehabilitation of the portion of road from the York Valley Bridge to the Warner Junction in Sultan before the end of this fiscal year. Mr. Speaker, we have upgraded 2 bridges in the wet area at Bells, and they have just been completed. Work will also continue on the Glow Gombe Road in Bells. Several retaining walls have been erected, and the resurfacing of the road will continue. I wish to thank the people of Bells for their patience and support. Mr. Speaker, St. Joseph has been the center of the St. Joseph Health District, but access to services can be met with challenges because of the present location of the health center. Furthermore, over the years, the building has deteriorated significantly despite repairs and maintenance. This building houses the only dental clinic and the main pharmacy of the health district. In keeping with government's policy of building resilient structures to withstand disasters, a brand new Type 3 health and wellness center will be built in the community of St. Joseph. When built, we will be able to cater to the entire St. Joseph Health District with new services such as specialist clinic. Mr. Speaker, in recent years, this government has trained many Dominicans in different medical specialties. It is therefore keeping that we have enough specialists now that we can send some out from the Dominica-Chinese Friendship Hospital. So when this building is built in St. Joseph, specialty clinics will be one of the highlights for our people on the West Coast. It is also my hope, Mr. Speaker, that this new center will be used to promote a healthy lifestyle through educational programs. Mr. Speaker, as I end, let me remind everyone that we are building dynamic Dominica, and this is clearly evident in this year's budget presentation. It is comforting to all Dominicans knowing that despite challenges brought about by natural disasters, health crises, and unforeseen circumstances, they have chosen a productive and innovative team of men and women led by our Honorable Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit to govern this country. We are a blessed nation, and with continued prayers and unwavering faith in God, we will surely prosper. With these words, I want to reiterate that I fully support this year's budget.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Palrep, you can remove the mask to present, but after we present, we should wear the mask, you know? Yeah.
Yes. I rise to give my support to this year's budget as presented by the Prime Minister of Dominica, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit. Mr. Speaker, when we consider where we came from 2015 to 2017, and the new pandemic that is now affecting us, it is commendable now that we could sit here or stand here and present a budget of that magnitude to the Council of Dominica. Mr. Speaker, we have to measure in context where we come from. We came from Tropical Storm Erica, and we moved 2 years as we were making a little progress. Here came Maria, and when we thought we were on our way to recovery fully, the coronavirus came. And the coronavirus, incidentally, was not localized. It was a worldwide pandemic, so we could not have received help as we could have initially from the two hurricanes, from the tropic, as in terms of the coronavirus. And the world economy, even big economies, the so-called first world countries, are struggling. Our sister islands in the Caribbean, they are also struggling. And we are here today presenting a budget to the Dominica people that will take them forward, and we will even augment what you're already doing from the last financial year. And this is very commendable, Mr. Speaker. This budget, I look at it as a budget for every single Dominican. Every man, woman, boy, and girl will be getting something from this budget. If you look at the road project passing through the Caribbean territory from Guadab to Pegua, this is a very, very big road project. It is costing $126 million. Can you imagine $126 million being spent between Guadab in the Casibrus Junction, traversing through Casibrus, through the Carinago territory to Pegua, and this road is a road that I know very well. I've been traversing that road all my life. And when I pass through that road, and I know what it will be looking like, several bridges are going to be replaced, because the bridges that were built, as you can see, the bridge on the Castle Bruce Bridge was opened in 1963 by Honorable Leblanc, and this bridge is now going to be replaced. And several culverts and box culverts are going to be replaced. And when this road is built, we know that we are going to be traversing this area and traveling on a road of safety, and the smooth ride will be everybody's pleasure, Mr. Speaker. And I look at that road too, between Layu Valley. That Layu Valley road is also important to we on the east of the island, because when we are going to Portsmouth or the West Coast, we now have to go through Jimmy. But when this road is completed, the York Valley Road, joined through Sultan area, we won't have to traverse through Jimmy anymore. We will be traveling through the Layu Valley into Hillsborough and onto the West Coast. And not only that, there are several farmers in this area that I know, because as a little boy growing up in the southeast, we used to go to Roseau through that Layu Valley Road, because at that time the Imperial Road was not passable. So that's where we passed to go to Roseau, and I used to see several truckloads of farmers going to their farms in that area. So not only will it help us in the east, it will also augment and help the people of the St. Joseph area who are farming in that area. So this road is very important, and this budget is also giving us that road, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I happen to be in the Ministry of Health as the Parliamentary Secretary, and the Ministry of Health already has been the ministry really that has been really spearheading our COVID-19 and fight and against the CNCDs. But this budget also is offering quite a bit for the Ministry of Health. I can see in this budget the Dominica China Friendship Hospital, the last two phases will be completed. And when these phases are completed, we are going to have a hospital that will be the envy of the Caribbean. And procedures that were being done overseas, because we know that in Dominica, what we term to be minor, what is seen to be minor overseas, we will see it in Dominica as we were not able to do it. But when this hospital is completed, we are going to have people from the other parts of the Caribbean coming to Dominica to do this exact procedure that we are now going overseas to do. And this is very commendable, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the primary healthcare system in Dominica is indeed one of the best primary healthcare systems in the world, if not the best. But I can say it's the best in the Caribbean. And incidentally, it was piloted in the Lapland Health District back in 1980. So I grew up in primary healthcare. Back then, the motto was health for all by the year 2000. But 2000 has come and gone, and health has been brought to everybody's doorstep in Dominica by our own primary healthcare system that was piloted in Lapland. And the Dominica Labour Party government is putting serious emphasis into the primary healthcare system to make it a better system, because as we know, something started in 1980. In this day and age, there are few areas that we must put together to make it move with the times. And the Dominican Labour Party is right on track with that, Mr. Speaker. And in that regard, Mr. Speaker, 12 new health centers were constructed, and we already have 6 commissioned, and they were named after stalwarts in medical care in their communities. The first, we have the Esprit Murphy Wellness Center in Maho, the Olivia Douglas Wellness Center. Incidentally, she is the mother of Honorable Ian Douglas in Georgetown, Portsmouth, the Mariam Moses Health and Wellness Center, the Stella LeBlanc Wellness Center in Vickers, the Imelda James Wellness Center in Wesley, and the Doris Elfrida Musgrave Wellness Center in Marigot. And contracts were awarded to 2 local contractors to do the cabinets and other areas in these health centers, Mr. Speaker. And works have also been completed in Penville, Collyho Wellness Center, and these facilities will soon be handed over to the Ministry of Health for commissioning soon, Mr. Speaker. And the Newton And Sufria health centers are also under construction. And Bakatel also has a new health center. So we can see in the infrastructure alone what has been done for primary health care by this Dominican Labour Party government just in the last year. Mr. Speaker, after the devastation of Hurricane Maria, health centers also suffered damage, and extensive damage was done to several health centers. But the Ministry of Health has taken a decision to repair the most severe first. And in this regard, priority was given to those that were severely damaged. And works will commence in Grand Fond Health Center very soon. And there is also works going on at the Salisbury and Saint-Sauveur Health Centers as we speak, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, in medical care, human resource, and the people to execute good health and to make our people healthy. Because in health, it is said that a man's health is up to him, but we know that some people are trained in the expertise that's needed to guide the people along the way. So you need people to advise people, and we need people to, when people get sick, to help them to get well. So human resource is a very big part of the Ministry of Health agenda. And as a result, Mr. Speaker, staff training has been ongoing. But because of the fact that they had to be trained overseas, and our relationship with the People's Republic of China and the Republic of Cuba, they assisted us. And 4 specialist consultants in the areas of oncology, cardiology, urology, ophthalmology were sent to Dominica, Mr. Speaker, from these countries. And these specialists provided guidance and supervision to medical officers who have completed specialization in cardiology, urology, and oncology. These are local people. And these people, the Cubans stayed in Dominica and the Chinese, so they could initiate them and they could have the interns help guide them along, and then when they get the feel of the work, they could have leave, and that was done, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are several medical officers who have completed training and specialized in fields of ENT, ear, nose, and throat specialists, neonatology, this for infants, urology for men, oncology, cancer, and endocrinology, that's for the endocrine system. So, and these people are local people who were trained, and they are back here in Dominica now, and they're being engaged and employed. Mr. Speaker, we have also granted contractual employment to 8 medical interns recently. These are Dominican doctors who went to train, and they are now doing their internship at the Dominica-China Friendship Hospital. And this government of the Dominican Labour Party, led by our Prime Minister, is taking the medical system very seriously, because we know a healthy nation will eventually become a wealthy nation. Mr. Speaker, we had with us in Dominica the Cuban Medical Brigade, and the collaborators continues, and this came in July. We had 24 Cuban collaborators joining the previous group in Dominica. And this includes nurses, doctors with specialty training areas in intensive care, accident and emergency, anesthesia, midwifery, as well as trained areas of pharmacy, laboratory, biomedical, radiographer trained in MRIs. So we have a specialist trained in MRI right here in Dominica who can do that for us. So very soon, no longer will we have to send people overseas to do that procedure. Mr. Speaker, the signing of the renewal of the cooperation agreement between the 2 countries were completed, that is Cuba and Dominica, on 28th April 2021. And this will allow the ministry to continue receiving staff in various specialties of employment and staff for this country, sir. Mr. Speaker, in the near future, we expect to receive 7 family practitioners, and this will be assigned to the health district and will work alongside the local medical officers Mr. Speaker. They are going to come to Dominica, and they're going to be sent to the 7 health districts to help the staff there to deliver health care to the people in the districts. And all that's under the primary health care system, because we know what primary health care is all about. Primary health care is supposed to be the prevention of the disease. So if we could work very hard in the primary healthcare system, we will prevent people from getting sick and go to the secondary healthcare systems, Mr. Speaker. So we want to really have these new people from the Cuban Republic sent to the districts so they could work in the districts, and we could detect the diseases. We could help the people to eat properly, to exercise, to sleep well, avoid stress, and do all these things that can prevent them from developing the NCDs, because we know what the NCDs are doing to the people in Dominica and the Caribbean. And it's no secret that we have a battle with the coronavirus, but we also have a titanic struggle too with the NCDs that are affecting us. And Mr. Speaker, in boosting the number of healthcare providers in the various districts, we strive to improve the delivery of adequate and timely healthcare in the primary healthcare system. And in this regard, 17 community health aides completed training on April 25th, 2021, and they all have since been employed in the system. And these community health aides are what we call our foot soldiers. These are the people who go out to the communities. They go out to the homes. They talk to the people. They look at the back to see if they have any backyard gardening. They encourage them to have backyard gardening. They encourage them to take their medication on time, because all the elderly sometimes they mix the medication. These people look at it and they tell them what to do, because you find sometimes the elderly live alone. And these are the people who go out and make sure that what is done at the health center is continued at home. And this family health is very important. 6 registered nurses received training in intensive care. Support was provided in collaboration with the University of the West Indies School of Nursing, and this was sponsored by PAHO and the World Health Organization in Mr. Speaker. And in midwifery too, Mr. Speaker. These nurses have acquired competencies to function in care setting at higher level, ICU, to contribute to the scaling of available human resource to respond in a timely manner to the people that come to the intensive care. And the Dominica China Friendship Hospital, Mr. Speaker, never had an intensive care unit before Dominican Labour Party came in power. We all know that. So it is fitting that we send our people who work there out to get training on a constant basis, so they could be on par with the rest of the world. And our intensive care unit was set up, as we know, by our Honorable Prime Minister, who saw it fit at the time. Mr. Speaker, the ministry has engaged several officers on contractual engagement, as well as in the establishment areas of nursing, laboratory, health education, medicine, and pharmacy, and more significantly, in the areas that focused on COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, COVID-19, as we know, has affected the primary healthcare system significantly.
15 more minutes.
15 more minutes. However,
Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the honourable member be given an additional 10 minutes to complete his presentation.
10.
Second, Mr. Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the Honorable Kent Edwards be given an additional 10 minutes. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker,
you are given an additional 10 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker. COVID-19 response plan was implemented by the primary health unit. Preparation and submission of screening protocol for the reopening of borders, as well as continuous review, was done as required. A district disaster plan was also reviewed with the health districts in each area. In the primary healthcare system, every health district have a disaster plan, and they meet every year prior to the hurricane season to review that disaster plan, and whenever a disaster is called, it is activated. So that was done, Mr. Speaker. A database was established for clients with chronic wounds in the primary health care. Pre-travel PCR testing was implemented at the Roseau Health Center for persons living in the country. Successful serological testing drive was implemented and completed. Mr. Speaker, a creation of draft comprehensive human resource HR plan for all categories of staff across the 7 health districts was done. A NEPO health subcommittee, in collaboration with Office of Disaster Management meeting, re-volcanic eruption and awareness was done. A COVID-19 vaccination strategy and implementation was completed and has been implemented. In collaboration with the Health Promotion Unit, an education drive was implemented re-COVID-19 vaccination. First dose vaccination was done through AstraZeneca. The rollout was started in this year by the healthcare system. It was started in February, and as we know, quite a few people have already taken the vaccines, and we're encouraging those who have not taken the vaccine to please do so. Because, as you heard last night, President Joe Biden said that there is a pandemic of unvaccinated people in the United States. Health promotion. The programs and activities achieved are as follows. They collaborated with the Ministry of Education to implement a school nutrition policy. The observance of Caribbean Wellness Day was done in a yoga session virtually. The observance of World Diabetes Day through radio programs and schools and district clinics activities under the nurse and diabetes specialists. A health promotion symposium and meal planning training sessions was conducted by the community health aides. Updated guidelines in cervical cancer sensitization and educational campaign on the cervical cancer guidelines were held. An awareness campaign in disaster preparedness was organized. The development and execution of a comprehensive risk communication plan for COVID-19 pandemic was done. And they also developed and are executing the hotline, the health promotion unit for this pandemic. Smart healthcare facilities were continued. The healthcare facilities are being smarted. It means that these healthcare facilities, when smarted, they can be used in spite of a hurricane. For example, the Lapid Health Center was the first health center that was smarted. It means that there is a reduction in downtime after a hurricane because the lighting system has been changed. They have been fitted with solar power, a new water, a standby water system, a generator. So in case there is a natural disaster, the downtime that is being seen by the healthcare facility will be greatly reduced, so we can continue to operate hours after a disaster. Mr. Speaker, the best part of the program, in my opinion, Mr. Speaker, is that each country will receive $13.3 million for the upgrade of healthcare facilities, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there was also a memorandum of understanding between the World Pediatric Project and the Ministry of Health. This World Pediatric Project is a project where children that are terminally ill, that are ill with certain conditions, can access surgery overseas. And this program has helped people that I know personally. And there is absolutely no way that these mothers would be able to afford to take their children to the United States or St. Vincent to have these surgeries conducted. And this project is helping these people. And there's a point person in Dominica, a pediatrician, who takes it. And every district and every community in Dominica have an equal opportunity to benefit from this memorandum of understanding, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Lapin constituency. Mr. Speaker, The Lapland constituency is the constituency that I represent. And in the past financial year, we saw several development activities there. And Mr. Speaker, nothing unites the people together more in the Southeast and in Lapland constituency more than sports, Mr. Speaker. And the Daly's playing field, located in Fotoma, will be rehabilitated in the upcoming years, Mr. Speaker, to a tune of $175,000, to include improved surfacing, lighting, and a change room. So when people are having sporting activities, there's a change room for them, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, there was recently, up to last week, the Botica playing field was graded. There was an equipment there, and that was done in collaboration with NIPO. No, this disaster management of Office of Disaster Management and the Botica Village Council. And the playing field in Botica is very essential because it has a double purpose. It is served as a landing site in case of a disaster because we know of the gorge, and also being used for recreation, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have sourced funding from a very generous benefactor to do the Lapland basketball court. And this basketball court will be done at the tune of $50,000, and this is being done through the help of a benefactor. And we are also, the Lapland playing field, it will be lighted, and the surface will be done, and the pavilion area that was destroyed by Hurricane Maria will be reinstated, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we know what the Toloma industry and the Bay Oil industry is in the Southeast. Anybody who spent 24 hours there would know what it is for us. And in this light, the government of Dominica rehabilitated the Toloma processing plant in the Daly's area at the tune of $265,751. And the Bay Oil processing plant on the Babelville stretch in Daly's was also rehabilitated to a tune of $158,000, Mr. Speaker. And we know the Bay Oil industry is one of the very good economic industries, island-wide, because over $2 million was fetched last year through Bay Oil. Mr. Speaker, the Daly's Petit Savannah Road. This road was, as you know, it was damaged by Tropical Storm Erica, and Hurricane Maria compounded the damage. A site visit was done there. The Prime Minister and members of Cabinet went there. And $200,000 has already been spent there in clearing up the road. But there are other edge failures, and another $1 million will be spent on the Daly's Petit Savannah Road, because the Daly's Petit Savannah Road is a very important link road for everybody on the Southeast. First of all, for economic reasons, and secondly, the distance to Roseau. Thirdly, in case there is a failure on the Rosalie side, we could use that area as an alternate. The Poirier Road in Daly's will be done this year. It was supposed to have been done, but because of a small hiccup, it will be done this year. And this road is a village road. These village roads are very important. It's a link road between the main road by the bus stop in Daly's to the area called Poirier. And this will be done under the Community Roads Program, Farm access, as you heard Senator Nicholas Esprit indicated, the Grand Riviere Road, that's the road where there is approximately 40 farmers in that area, traversing Livier Canal up to Grand Riviere. And this road will be given attention this year, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Lapland Daly's Road was also rehabilitated to a tune of $1 million, Mr. Speaker. And housing, Mr. Speaker, remains a very high priority for this government, and also a very high priority for me as the PAL rep and the representative personally. And we know what the housing stock damage was, what was done to our housing stock during Hurricane Maria. And $6 million has already been spent since Hurricane Maria in that constituency, Lapland constituency, in housing. But $700,000 was placed at the Lapland Credit Village Council for housing program just last month, Mr. Speaker. And $300,000 was put at the Botica Village Council to continue the housing program in the Lapland constituency. So I'm very happy and the people with houses that were damaged and needing repairs and needing houses. That is very, 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 very important to them. And that is in addition to the 130 apartments that we were given keys to last year, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Daly's Primary School is now being rehabilitated at a cost of $1.86 million, and this was donated by the Canadian government. We're thankful for that, Mr. Speaker. And the Lapland schoolyard was fenced, Mr. Speaker. And whilst I'm on that, let me recognize Mr. Craig Larond, a young man from Daly's who graduated with honors in the United States earlier on this year, and Ms. Janelle Gist, and the two young people who were sent to study by this government, and they both graduated with honors, Mr. Speaker. Laptops was provided to the college and school students. We know what the free textbooks are all about, and the social programs are continuing. The NEP in Lapland pays $42,000 monthly to interns in Lapland and $25,000 in Daly's, and Botica, another $10,000 is being paid every month to NEP interns in this constituency, Mr. Speaker. And the over 70, the people 70 and over are very thankful, because these people are looking forward every month to that money that they could use to do their daily chores. And in Lapland, the over 70 pays $19,000 monthly, and in Daly's another $18,000 is paid monthly under this 70 and over program. So the Lapland constituency is our social programs, Dr. King, is doing very well in my constituency. And the Yes We Care continues in Lapland, and we are looking forward to the integration that you spoke about, Dr. King, Honorable King. And the guardrails, everybody who knows Lapland would know that the High Street area in Lapland, there is a gorge on the left-hand side, on the one you're going up between the church and the cross, the school junction. And the guardrails were placed there, and these guardrails will be improving the safety of the school students, particularly because that's where the school is, and also motorists and pedestrians to walk in this road. So this was a very good project. And I heard the Minister for Youth said that the Daly's Youth Center will also be given some attention this year. So, Mr. Speaker, I am very happy and proud to be the PAL rep for the Lapland constituency, and I would like to thank the Lapland constituents for their support, Lapland, Botica, and Daly's. And I'm assuring them that we will work together for the betterment of our constituency, because it's only unity will take us forward. And with these few words, I want to reiterate my support for this year's budget.
Yes, Honorable Hippolyte, I recognize you. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to give my full support to the 2021-2022 budget as presented by our Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit. But before I begin my presentation here this morning, I want to extend condolences to Mrs. Corinthia Blas Esprit and her family and friends of the deceased Honorable Speaker. Mrs. Blas Esprit was a stalwart of the Dominican Labour Party. We used to call her Farm Labour, Mr. Speaker. And recently we held a candlelight vigil for Corinthia Blas Esprit, and the turnout there was tremendous, and that shows that the contribution that she made to Dominica and Dominicans on a whole. So I want to tell the family of Mrs. Esprit that we are there with them and we are there for them,
and the Dominican Labour Party government will support them in every step of the way. Mr. Speaker, I want to bid special greetings to the constituents of the Roseau South constituency, and to bid greetings to our listening and viewing public and the mass media. As I said last financial year, and I shall now restate, Mr. Speaker, the budget which I have a reason to support is being debated within an extraordinary global environment which the modernized world had never once experienced. The new normal is indeed a global abnormality which poses significant challenges for small island developing states and others, yet it opens the door to creative thinking and new opportunities. Mr. Speaker, I looked on yesterday to what happened in the House, and the Hollywood stunt that the opposition gang sought to pull in this legislature is a testimonial of their inability to come to terms with the reality of the advancement of dynamic Dominica. Dominica, Mr. Speaker, through the progressive measures contained in the budgetary provisions presented by our Honorable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, you played football, and I consider that an own goal in a championship finals, resounding in a sound and embarrassing defeats. The opposition party, which is now becoming a degenerated pressure group, sought to divert the Dominican people from the salient measures contained in this budget. They had no answer to it, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I listened very well to the Minister of Trade, Honorable Ian Douglas, yesterday, when he sought to give us the historical facts and to let the Dominican people know where we were and why we are doing what we are doing today. I heard the member for Salisbury said, oh, that was 20 years ago, Mr. Speaker. But we are still paying for the economic sins of the United Workers' Party. Mr. Speaker, those of us who think it is an easy task must be reminded that the Dominica experiences have been quite challenging and continuous. To fully grasp the currency of now, we must seek to remind ourselves of the historical. We had to confront the 4.5 years of the UWP economic hurricane. In the process, austerity measures had to be introduced to bring a semblance of normality to our economy. We lost 2 prime ministers, and if this wasn't enough, Mr. Speaker, the global economic downturn. The trough of December 24th, Christmas Eve, followed by Tropical Storm Erica, continuous topographical constraints, then horrible Maria, and now COVID-19 pandemic. Those amongst us who close their moral eyes to these events, Mr. Speaker, a special kind of karma awaits them. That is what our DLP government and Dominicans had to be subjected to. We didn't bury our hands in the sand. We chose not to surrender, but to confront these Herculean challenges and defy all economic indicators and bounce back in record time. The job, however, Mr. Speaker, is far from complete. Resilient and dynamic Dominica is being rebuilt. Mr. Speaker, a major hurdle in our sacred quest to fulfill this development is being traversed through the commencement of the work of the international airport. Mr. Speaker, the same way the dam bridge was built in Marigot is the same way we are building the dam airport in Wesley.
You can, your context there, it is unparliamentary to say the dam airport. So you have to withdraw.
Withdraw, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. But the dam bridge is correct, I feel.
Those who saw this as a mere pipe dream or hopeful project can now see it as a modern day reality, bringing hope and deepened pride to all our people. Your DLP government, under the God-sent leadership of the star of the Caribbean, Dr. the Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, is building this facility. Millions of state-raised financial resources, Dominica's money, are being invested towards this facility. The hand of God shall crush any force that is directed at stopping this airport. Let me state unequivocally, Mr. Speaker, that my people of Roseau South are fully supportive of this project and are positioning themselves cross-sectorally to take full advantage of the airport facility. All of Dominica stands to benefit. The hotel and tourism industry stands to benefit. Our horticulture and agriculture industry stands to benefit. Our tour operators, bus drivers, and taxi drivers stand to benefit. Our fisher folks stand to benefit. And UWP thinks only of itself and sees no political benefit from this. It is not about politics. It is about all Dominica's development and our people's development, Mr. Speaker. But as we position ourselves for the new international airport, there are some critical analyses which must occur to put forward strong and strategic recommendations for the Port Authority. We have commissioned DASPER to conduct several reviews of operational, organizational, and human resource audits. The end result would be an action plan to position DASPER for the future with the right skill set, structure, and systems. In the new financial year, DASPER will also be pursuing the digitization of cargo services to facilitate clearing of goods on the port. The aesthetics of the ports continue to be improved with major upliftment at the Woodbridge Bay Port, as well as an attractive entry driveway at the Douglas Charles Airport. We are changing the ambience of the ports, creating more green and softer spaces and a more welcoming ambience to do business. This will continue at all major ports throughout the financial year. During the pandemic, we have experienced an increase in the number of private jets to Dominica. These high-end visitors come for both business and leisure. Additionally, our new luxury accommodations have already been attracting high-income clientele who expect the same luxury standards throughout their stay. So although many may have criticized the new executive lounge at the Douglas Charles Airport, these high-class features and services go hand in hand with luxury, high-end offerings in Dominica as we evolve and expand our tourism product. During the financial year, the ministry and the team have reviewed proposals for the new cruise ship port. We are ensuring that when the final project is authorized, it strikes an efficient balance in terms of value for money, local benefits, and unique appeal. In maritime, the maritime sector, with responsibility for safety and security of maritime transportation and for protection of the marine environment from shipborne pollution, has embarked on a project to develop a maritime security strategy for Dominica, which is near incompletion. The National Risk Register outlines the various maritime threats to which Dominica is exposed and provides mitigation and proactive measures to combat them. This is particularly important in light of government's plans to develop a modern port and cruise ship village. The focus of the Maritime Administration Unit for the new financial year will be on creating the legislative framework for safety at sea in accordance with international declarations. Implementation of the International Maritime Organization's Corrective Action Plan for Dominica, certification of vessels for seaworthiness, establishment of a National Maritime Committee, and development of the Maritime National Policy. A senior consultant has been recruited by the government to develop the new legal and administrative framework for the maritime sector. Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding the challenges posed by the reopening of ports of entry with new protocols and reorganization of infrastructure requirements, the government has been able to reorganize its operations at both the airport and seaport to address the challenges of facilitating the movement of passengers. To date, we can boast that under these new health protocols, not one employee has contracted the COVID-19 virus. The priority of the Port Authority continues to be modernization of port operations, review of DASPA's legislative framework, and the conduct of assessments which will determine steps needed to increase efficiency of DASPA and prepare for international airport. Notwithstanding, air access continues to be at the forefront of the work program of the Ministry of Tourism as we seek to develop new routes and ease of access for travelers and citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Speaker, the construction of this international airport is a major step in building dynamic Dominica. A lot of intellectual and financial capital is being invested in this project. The Dominica Labour Party government recognized the need of not burdening our taxpayers, and at the same time, it invested heavily in developing a robust physical and economic structure. We see the DLP's acclaimed genius for its massive hotel construction program, the education revolution, modernization of our road network, the new Dominica-China Friendship Hospital, unprecedented housing revolution, tourism investment, energy sovereignty via geothermal, solar, wind, and hydro investments, the new health and wellness centers, the National Stadium, just to name a few.
15 minutes left.
Go ahead. Mr. Speaker, let me pay attention to voters and residents of Roseau constituency. I must commend you for your continued increasing show of support and solidarity. Your deepened love, honesty, patience, loyalty, and industry. 2019-2020 was a good year for us in the Roseau South constituency, To God be the glory, Mr. Speaker. Great things he has done. Although we were not able to meet all our targeted projects due to the COVID-19 pandemic and other unforeseen events, but I want to reassure my people that none of our projects and programs have been swept under the carpet. Mr. Speaker, there's a name that they call me in the Roseau South constituency, the Grong Pal Rep, Mr. Speaker. And they call me the Grong Pal Rep because if you go to Baghdad in Egliston, they'll tell you the Grong Pal Rep was just there. If you go to Montego Bay in Newtown, they'll tell you the Grong Pal Rep was just there. If you go to Silver Lake, Mr. Speaker, they will tell you the Grong Pal Rep was just there, Mr. Speaker. And Center Street, Back Street in Kings Hill, they will tell you the Grong Pal Rep was just there. So your Grong Pal Rep was able to deliver the following. 1, the Newtown Health Center, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, no longer will my people of Newtown be in a container, subjected to being a container for medical care, Mr. Speaker. Today I stand very proud as a Harlem girl to inform my constituents that the health center have been completed and will be commissioned very soon, Mr. Speaker. Your Grong Pal Rep has been able to deliver the Newtown Fish Market area. And every time I talk about the fish market, Mr. Speaker, I remember Dr. Daru, because he has always said to me, but if I was the people from Newtown, I would not vote for you. Because what was there, Mr. Speaker, was an eyesore. It was not a good reflection of the people of Newtown. And today we can boast that the fishermen have an area to sell their fish in a clean environment, Mr. Speaker. And somebody whispered in my ears, you know, Mr. Speaker, that since that facility was built, the fishermen catching more fish. And Mr. Speaker, they even catching sharks too, you know, Mr. Speaker. All kind of fish they catching. Everything. Everything. But Mr. Speaker, we are not done. It's the first phase. We intend to build, extend, do a locker room, and go up to a resource center for the fishermen. I know that there are some other challenges confronting the fishermen, but they know that their Pal Rep will work hand in hand with them, Mr. Speaker, and will resolve some of these matters. And they have my full support because Newtown is a fishing community, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are 2 places in Dominica that can boast about yachts. It's Portsmouth and Newtown, although Portsmouth has a little more than us, but we have yachts. So your Grong Pal Rep 2 was able to revamp NAYS. Mr. Speaker, NAYS is the Newtown Association for Yachting Security and Services, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank Mr. Sherman Julian, who is the chairperson of that committee, and his other executive members for coming to the task, Mr. Speaker, volunteering their time and their efforts to ensure that when our yachts come in, they come in a safe environment, they're secured, Mr. Speaker. And as a result of this, NAYS will be provided with a boat, Mr. Speaker, in this financial year to assist them in carrying out their duties, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, their Grong Pal Rep was able to deliver a retaining wall at Citrone, and this wall was necessary to protect property and the lives of our people. That wall was destroyed since Hurricane Maria. Mr. Speaker, I'm not too sure when last you crossed the bridge. You know, they say across the bridge, there's no more pain, no more sorrow. But we have a bridge that you cross to go into Bath Estate. And the Grong Pal Rep was able to rehabilitate the walkway on that bridge and all the railings, Mr. Speaker. So if you cross the bridge now, we have really enhanced the entrance, Mr. Speaker, of the Baffin State area. And I want to thank the Minister of Public Works and his PS for always being there for us, Mr. Speaker. They're always there for us in the Rosal sub-constituency. Thank you, Minister Kasani. Your ground power rep was also able to deliver the first phase of the multi-purpose hard court facility at Baffin State, Mr. Speaker. And I am pleased to tell the people of Baffin State that the second phase will commence in the next few weeks. And the second phase will entail the placing of the acrylic surfacing material on the hard court, fencing and lighting of that multi-purpose court. So works will commence in the few weeks, and that is not, I'm not just speaking, Mr. Anything I say here, I know that it will happen. It must happen, Mr. Speaker. And we have already secured the financing for that. Now, Mr. Speaker, there's some businessmen that there's a particular businessman that I want to recognize, and his name is Mr. Ferdinand Greenaway. Because he's always willing to assist in the community, Mr. Speaker. And he and I had a discussion as it pertains to Silver Lake and an area for the children to play. Because I recognize, and every time I come in this area, they're always kicking their balls and they're so close to the apartment. And so he volunteered to do a playing field for the children of Silver Lake. We have already begun works. There was a little delay, Mr. Speaker, in terms of the material, but works will commence very soon, Mr. Speaker, on the playing field in Silver Lake. And while I am on Silver Lake, Mr. Speaker, there are some people who do not have the best interest of the people of Silver Lake. We remember what they used to call the people, the Silver Lake. This was the Dominica Labour Party who changed that from Fly City to Silver Lake, Mr. Speaker. And the people of Silver Lake know that it is the Dominica Labour Party government and their power rep that have their back. There are people who are coming into Silver Lake and portraying negativity in Silver Lake, Mr. Speaker. But they have never once come to Silver Lake to film the beautiful plants that the NEP workers have planted on the side of the road, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to tell the people of Silver Lake that I know that they're going through challenges as it relates to the apartment. The Minister of Public Works is helping me in that regard. We have received a report from the WASCO and certain recommendations that need to be made, and we will address their problem. Their power rep will address their problem. Their power rep who have their best interests at heart will address their problem, Mr. Speaker, and they should be rest assured of that. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, the half court in Kings Hill is being built. And from my understanding, that half court, the concrete material will be poured as early as next week, Mr. Speaker.
5 more minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the South constituency until additional minutes to complete the presentation on this budget.
Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that Honorable Hippolyte receive an additional 10 minutes. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. You are given an additional 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The restoration of the Kings Hill Military Cemetery was also delivered by the ground power rep, Mr. Speaker. And that cemetery was abandoned for years. It was part of the historic garrison of Monbruce, and the cemetery site was for the burial of British soldiers and members of the West Indies Regiment who were stationed there. Upon completion, This will enhance the historic tours of Roseau, including the Old Market Square, Barracoon Buildings, Botanic Gardens, and Monbruce, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, your ground power rep was also able to deliver the rehabilitation of the infrastructure at Monbruce, a place where cruise ship tourists visit, a place of romance, Mr. Speaker, and relaxation. Mr. Speaker, and my minister, Honorable Dennis Charles, said that she's going to add another pillar to our 5 pillars in the ministry, romance in Dominica. And we in the Roseau South constituency have already positioned ourselves. So, Minister of Tourism, I want you to look at this Monbruce site because it's a great area. And I just want to invite my dear friend and the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Dr. Daru. When you're ready to engage Dr. Daru, this is a perfect area for you to come, Dr.
Daru. Are you saying that Dr. Daru is the Romance Minister?
Romance Minister, yes. Mr. Speaker, the Lubia playing field has been graded, Mr. Speaker, and works will continue on the Lubia playing field in the first quarter of this financial year. Several roads in the constituency have been rehabilitated. Let me start with the 4-Hour Road. I want to commend the residents there for their efforts in the rehabilitation of this road. Ms. Anna Girodel and the residents for committing to the task. I ensured that they received the necessary material, Mr. Speaker, and they executed. The Leopoldville entrance road was done by Mr. Kelvin Jack and his team. Job well done. We also saw the rehabilitation of the Wallhouse Main Road and the road leading to the Kings Hill Baptist Church. I want to thank the Minister of Public Works again and his peers for their continued support to us in the Roseau South constituency. Mr. Speaker, housing still remains a priority for me in Roseau South. In 2019-2020, we continue to build homes for the less fortunate, put roofs over their heads, and distributed much-needed windows and doors. My constituents will certainly see a continuation of this for this financial year. Millions of dollars have been spent in Roseau South on housing. We are also hoping that the construction of the apartment complex at Eggleston will be realized. We are already in possession of the land. As it relates to education, Mr. Speaker, 260 students who attended primary and secondary schools from the constituency were assisted in the purchase of school uniforms. Over 200 students were equipped with laptops as we move into e-learning. 26 of our students were given assistance to pursue higher level education, Mr. Speaker. I also learned that the Newtown Primary School had no school feeding program, and when I approached the Minister of Education, that was a reality in last financial year, 2019-2020, and a school feeding program will also be implemented at the Girodel Primary School in this financial year. Mr. Speaker, in agriculture, many of our farmers received the necessary tools, fertilizers, and inputs required to assist them with their production. Mr. Speaker, the most talked about Girodel Eggleston Flower Show will be a reality next year, Mr. Speaker, 2021-2022. I am pleased to report that we have already established a management committee, and this committee has been meeting weekly, Mr. Speaker, along with the Village Council and the Flower Growers Group. Our small business owners have taken advantage of the loan facility available at Aid Bank and have managed to get back on their feet due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Renovation works on the Eggleston Pavilion was also done, Mr. Speaker. This pavilion is used as a hurricane shelter and the Seventh-day Adventist Church uses there as well to worship on a Saturday. Mr. Speaker, the multifaceted nature of this region means that in order to foster its advancement, there has to be an unrushed, voluntary marriage of ideas. And we must create the platform where the people begin to play a more involved role in community building through the conduct of voluntarism by partnering with central government and community and business leaders. Mr. Speaker, in the area of education, I will be conducting regular consultations with the management staff and principal of all the education institutions in Roseau South. We'll also be conducting night classes in CSEC, technical skills. We cannot continue to invest millions on our educational infrastructure only to be closed at 1 p.m., Mr. Speaker. I will also be establishing a sports committee in the Roseau South constituency headed by my godfather and the founder of the Newtown Juvenile Football Academy, Mr. Joe Faustin. The committee will look at developing of club structures, sports as a business, sports tourism, women's sports, youth and sports, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've been seeing on Facebook a light, Mr. Speaker, and I think it reads, Shakira, turn on the light. But I want to inform these people or whosoever that have that post going around that a light was turned on in Roseau South on December 6, 2019, Mr. Speaker. Because Roseau South was in darkness. And I came in and I turned on the light. But extra light will be shining on the Newtown Savannah, Mr. Speaker, in 2021, 2022. So, Mr. Speaker, we'll see the relighting of the Newtown Savannah. And I've already had discussions with the Ministry of Sports, the FA executive, to make this a reality for the footballers of Newtown. Mr. Speaker, in terms of infrastructure, I have so much more to say, but I have to cut it short. In terms of infrastructure, I am pleased to announce to the residents of Emsall, and I hope the camera is focusing right on me, Mr. Speaker, that the Emsall Bridge is coming, Mr. Speaker. The bridge will cost over $10 million. And I was assured by my friend, the Minister for Public Works, Senator Laville, that this will be done in this financial year, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this may seem as a very exhaustive short. I'm even exhausted talking about it, Mr. Speaker, all my plans and programs. But it's just a tip of the Roseau South economic iceberg. It contains progressive demands, which are inclusive of very key aspects that are contained in my plans for the sustainable development of my constituency, Mr. Speaker. We do have what it takes to surmount the challenges that are placed before us, whether they're natural or man-made, because the God of Israel is on our side. The COVIDization of the world is upon us. But let us not be crippled with fear. Our faith in God is a must, be our weapon of choice. We must remain prayerful and thankful and humble and hardworking, and our harvest shall be plentiful. The outstanding leadership of our Honorable Skerrit has inspired this nation and beyond to deal with moments like these. He is the greatest leader, Mr. Speaker, of all times. Mr. Speaker, we are moving forward. We are not turning back. Dynamic Dominica is unfolding right before our very eyes. Forward ever, Mr. Speaker, backward never. Mr. Speaker, I want to support this 2021-2022 budget wholeheartedly. I thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this Honorable House be suspended until 3 p.m. this afternoon.
Second, Mr. Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that this Honorable House be suspended until 3 p.m. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. House stand suspended until 3 p.m.
Mr. Speaker.